either the dynamic duo of student organizing, either Rachel or Nancy, to talk about how to organize some more. Here, Nancy.
Go, Nancy! Hi, everyone. I'm Nancy. Some of you may know me as the annoying salesperson who keeps trying to sell you Bernie buttons, but my friend Rachel and I don't know if she's here yet, she was running late from her babysitting, but we have been involved with Friends for Bernie for not quite a long time, but we've been making some pretty good success with students, which is no surprise to anyone. We organized a volunteering group, which is already more than 20 people in Reims, in the American campus of Sciences Po. Some of them came here just for the night, just to attend the event with Larry Sanders. And then we also had a pretty successful Beers for Bernie event last week. As a result of just these two campaigns, we have over 40 new people who joined our mailing list. Some of you are here today. Thank you. We also had someone contact us from Menton/Nice, also interested in recruiting student volunteers, getting American students in Paris to vote in the GPP. So if you're interested in joining any of these initiatives, or like carrying your own initiatives for activating student voters, student volunteers in France, be it in Paris or other cities, please contact me. And also, if you want to buy some more Bernie buttons, I'm your guy. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. And this is also perfect evidence of take the initiative in terms of, Nancy and Rachel came to meetings back in December, I think,
yeah.
And already they've organized at least 100 people. So it's greatly appreciated. There's lots of room for activity, ideas, and we need your help and we want your involvement. So see any of those folks again, I'm just going to ask people to stand up again. Tristan, Outreach. Gabriella, Leon. Texting Paris, Drew. Student Organizing, Nancy. Social Media, Graphics, Messaging, Claudia. Website, Susan. Medicare for All, Mark. So, and thank you to so many others who have been helping these folks to be so productive in all of their work. Now, I just have a hunch that once we are done with questions and discussion, that some people might wind up taking off, even though we really want you to help us show our strength by coming to the front of the room and joining us for a major group photo, and then hanging around to socialize. So just another quick couple of announcements before we get to more questions and discussion. For those of you who are not currently on our mailing list, not just Meetup, because Meetup doesn't have your email address, but our mailing list, because we send out more info there, but we do not swamp people. Where are some of our signers in, Drew? Can you raise your hand, people who can sign you in? If you haven't signed in already, see one of these people who've raised their clipboards or hands, and please sign our mailing list and print clearly, because if we can't read it, then we won't be able to send you anything. In addition, I think Nancy needs to leave a little early, so if she's not here and you still haven't bought your buttons, which are €2 a piece, 3 for $5, they're extremely fashionable because you can see everyone's wearing them. I'm also selling them. So check with Nancy first, and if she's not here, then check with me. Just a couple of upcoming events that you may be interested in, and there's going to be more, which we will email to you, as well as you'll find on social media. There are debate nights. Now, the debate nights are organized, they're watch nights. They're organized by Democrats abroad, and what we try to do is to have a very healthy, active, visible Bernie contingent at these debate nights. It shows strength. It shows unity. Our clapping gets louder if there's more of us there. Some of us met at some of those debate nights. So the next debate night, there's a lot of debates coming up too. There's one organized by the Young Democrats, and you have to be under age 35 to go to that one. And it's going to be on December 8th, 7 p.m. Not December, sorry, February 8th at 7 p.m. at the Frogs Pub, 9 Rue de la Bastille. Then, for those over 35, but people under 35 are also welcome, there's the debate night February 9th, the following night, at Joe Allen Restaurant, which is at 30 Rue Pierre Lescaut, also at 7 o'clock. Look for the Bernie table, wear your Bernie gear, and let's show strength in numbers.
What's that street again?
30 Rue Pierre Lescaut. The next major organizing meeting, none of our various working groups that hopefully many of you will be signing up for, but of this entire group, is going to be on Monday, February 24th, here. And, of course, the theme of that meeting is winning the global presidential primary for Bernie. We're going to gear up for that. We're going to do our final organizing, gearing up for March 3rd to 10th. We need all hands on deck. And again, we'll be sending out reminders, but please join us for that. I'm going to ask Larry to now join us up here again to get to your questions and discussion. And I'm going to need help again with this mic or people coming up here to get recognized. There's a woman in the back. Yes.
Bernie's influence has been coming also over here because we have a Green New Deal in Parliament right now, and it looks like it might pass. To share that it might be a bit hopeful to hear that we hope it will pass first in Iceland, and then we can be the little guinea pig, and then the rest of the world will follow.
All of them.
Any comments on it?
That's marvelous. Thank you.
Mike?
I think it'll reach over here.
This one works better.
One question. When did... Sorry. When?
I'm going to ask people to... Can I have the mic a second?
Can you come up?
Rather than just passing the mic around the room, I'm going to ask people to please be recognized and try to respect that for future. But thanks. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my question was, when was the pivotal moment for Bernie Sanders to realize the climate urgency, which is a big part of his program? And when did it become so, when did he feel this sense of urgency?
I think I'm going to have to ask you to come and use this thing because I'm deaf.
The question was, when did climate become important to Bernie? When did he start to feel that sense of urgency?
That's a very good question, which is what people say when they don't know the answer. It's certainly been growing. It is true, I think, that 8 or 10 years ago he wouldn't have recognized it. But I can't help you out anymore. It's been visibly growing, perhaps for that period. So.
I know there's lots of, but excuse me. I'd like to recognize people because I want to make sure there's gender balance and other issues too. So, is there a woman who hasn't asked a question first? Stand.
Thanks. I'm curious to have your analysis of what you think might happen. Hi, I'm here.
Hello.
How can we see the DNC convention in terms of the delegate count? Because when Larry Cohen was here in December, he told us that we were maybe hoping that the Bernie delegates and the Warren delegates could get together and hopefully make a coalition to get over 50%. I have some doubts about that now, given what's happened. Can you just give your thoughts and analysis about the delegate count in the convention? Thank you.
Specifically about the Bernie Warren, which is the dispute between them was very sad, and I think unnecessary. But they seem to be both determined to show that they're getting past it, which is good. The only thing you might not have noticed it. I saw this somewhere, and I think lots of people won't know it, but it might be quite significant. Just after that dispute, within a couple of days, Bernie's team released something into the public domain, so I don't mind talking about it, in which they revealed that they had got legal advice. I don't know if people have heard this. They got legal advice as to whether the same person could be vice president and secretary of the Treasury. Now, it doesn't take an awful lot of analysis to think who might that be that they had in mind. So I think that, and that came after the thing flared up. So I'm hopeful that that's the kind of thing they're thinking about. Obviously, it'll depend on how the votes go in the various primaries, but I think that the Bernie team has had that in mind, and it makes me hopeful.
Larry, you voted internationally, and there's one question I really want to ask, because it's really important. If you vote internationally, does that mean are you declaring residency overseas? What if you're just here temporarily, but you want to keep your residency in your own state and vote there in all the other elections? Do you know if this affects that?
As far as I know, there's no problem. You're not claiming residency. You're just saying that you are resident at that moment. Now,
you're saying you're resident, or you're saying you
what
just
is
happen to be there?
Okay. Tell me, okay, I'm going to ask Ada if I'm saying anything or misspeaking on this. You can still vote in all of your other home state races and still vote in the global primary. That's the message we're trying to get out to people. All you need to do, like for example, I vote in California, but I'm going to vote in the global presidential primary. So when I get the ballot from California, I'm going to vote in everything except for president. I just leave that blank.
So you stay a California resident, right?
Well, I'm not a California resident. Ada, am I missing anything?
Yes.
Resident. Yes, you do. I'm not, because that's what. But you're fine doing that. Because we have a lot of people, too, who are students who are here temporarily, for example, who can and should, because you're going to make a tremendous difference in this race, vote in the global primary while getting their state ballot and voting for all of the races. I hope that helps clarify.
Thank you.
Penny?
There's another question.
No, we
Yeah, I have a
over
question
here
what
too.
she just said.
Good evening. Thank you so much for being here. So as a student who's studying political science, I'm learning and reading a lot about how, how different social movements form out of causation, out of reaction to something else. But I'm also seeing how it's not always a reaction, it's also something that when I am growing up and observing things, I'm learning and I'm knowing certain things and I'm holding certain beliefs and certain perspectives. And so that's why I'm really glad to support Bernie today. And so I'm wondering, if there's anything you have to say to somebody who doesn't believe that these political movements are just reactionary forces. If there's anything you'd like to say to us students who don't believe that our political efforts and what we stand for politically is just reactionary, but also because of what we do believe in, specifically what we're proponents of when it comes to Bernie's policies. And I just don't know how much you're in communication, but I just hope that you know, he knows that there are a lot of people supporting him of different age groups, as I can see that here. And so yeah, I think I have a lot of confidence in him, and I hope that we all keep that. So thank you.
Thanks very much. I was trying quickly to think and failing to think about political movements I might have heard of or read about, and whether any of them arise out of a situation, don't arise from a situation where there's something big happening that affects people who then get angry about it and do something. And I can't think that quickly, actually, but I think the other question you're kind of asking is how much, I mean, there's lots of debates in socialist circles about whether you have to be working class to be a socialist, and what it means to be working class, and all those, and what socialism is, and things like that. And a lot of it is kind of materialistic based. In other words, there's an objective background to why you might be in favor of socialism or democratic socialism or whatever. Or is it something that people come to just because that's their moral belief? And I think that there is no doubt in my mind that there are people from every kind of class background who come to certain conclusions out of their understanding of the world, their experience of the world, their morality. And I think that that's absolutely as important determination of world history as anything. But I haven't read enough recently to go further than that.
That answer, thank you.
There.
So, I'm from the UK, and I campaigned for Jeremy Corbyn and Labour. My question is, since you've had a lot of experience with British politics and American politics, what advice do you think that the Bernie movement should take from Labour's defeat in the 2019 general election, given that we had our own Green New Deal?
What advice from the 2019 election? Well, don't lose. That's the first thing. It's been such a weird sensation in over Britain politics for the last 3 years since Brexit, and I think that I don't think there's a real reason to think that the American election situation now and Bernard's situation are really comparable to Britain. Brexit just flew everything, and we in Green Party were hoping it would be a climate election, and I personally was hoping it would be a health election. It turned out to be, let's get the hell out of this crap, and we're bored with the discussion election, and that doesn't apply to America. So there have been people saying, oh well, since Corbyn lost, it means that Bernard will lose. I don't see that that's the way it works. The situation was much different. The one particular thing I would like to pick out, and I don't have an answer to it either, is that what played a huge part in a large part anyhow in the Corbyn situation were accusations of anti-Semitism, which were largely based on his very strong support for the Palestinian cause. I think that Bernard has dealt with that beautifully. He said very clearly, and there will be people who disagree, and there are good reasons to disagree, but his view was that there needed to be a continuing Israeli state, but that there needed to be a legitimate and viable Palestinian state. And now people who are following that know how hard that will be, given what the Israeli government has done to Palestinians. But on the other hand, I think Bernard is right. There is no future there. There are, lots of people, lots of emotion. You cannot have anything that resembles a solution there that does not recognize the rights of both sides. And I think that Corbyn never quite got around to being clear. And I'm hoping that Bernard's clarity will carry the day.
The last portion of Larry's answer was my question, so.
Can't hear you.
The last portion of Larry's response was his question, so it's been asked and answered already.
Thank you.
I don't know if I need the microphone. Okay. I was wondering if Bernie loses a Democratic convention, which could happen for any number of reasons, legal or illegal, would he consider running as an independent, and even could he legally at that point run an independent race for president?
Well, I think the answer really is no. Bernard is very clear. He said it many times. He's going to support the nominee. I think if it's a certain level of illegality, that might change. But basically, within the normal range of illegality in the Democratic Party, Bernard will support the candidate the way he supported Hillary, and he supported her more effectively than she supported herself. So.
Other questions?
I'm very worried about.
Louder.
I'm extremely worried about Bloomberg, Mike Bloomberg. I'm worried about him.
That's a question.
That's a question? Yes. Okay. I'm worried about. I think my analysis, for what it's worth, and it's not worth all that much, is that what we've got now is that Buttigieg is not a national candidate. So whatever he does, whatever happens in the end in Iowa, in terms of him, is not important. He'll get reasonable vote, but way behind Bernard in New Hampshire. And I think that's pretty much the end of his campaign. He's not a national candidate. Klobuchar is in the same even more. She's not a national candidate. So that would leave Bernard, Warren, and Biden. And I honestly think that Biden has had it. And that's, he's going to carry on campaigning for a while. But that was a terrible showing in Iowa, to get such a low fourth. The leading character in the competition falls so badly. He'll do just as badly, if not worse, in New Hampshire, I think. He will do a little bit better in the succeeding states, but I think he'll do less well than people have been predicting he would. So I think Biden is out of it. So we have Bernard and Elizabeth in the race.
And Pete.
No, I think Pete is out. Yes, I don't think Pete exists outside of those two states. I'll be wrong, but that's the way I see it. So there has to be a right-wing candidate in a party that has a very powerful right wing, and the one that is coming to the fore is definitely Bloomberg. So it's very real. He's got, as people have noticed, quite a lot of money, and the money is useful for blasting out television ads all over the place. It's also pretty near to direct bribery, in the sense that there are loads of local politicians and local Democratic parties who struggle for money. And here's a guy that if you're nice to him, you know that there can be quite a big donation in somebody's box. So I think he's he's very likely to be the right-wing candidate in a party which has two wings. What happens between Bernard and Elizabeth, of course, is another major issue. But I think you're right to see him as a big figure.
Laurent?
Hello. There are many new people.
This way.
And I have louder. Yes. Okay.
He needs to see you.
Tonight, and I have one remark and one question to Larry. My remark is, as a French who is involved since the 2016 campaign, I can say it's very easy to participate to all the activities to fight for Bernie. One remark. And my question to Larry is, does Bernie know that he has many French supporters?
Well, that's a question I'm happy to answer. We don't communicate as much recently as we used to do, but we had. I told them what I was doing in terms of Democrats abroad, and we had a talk, and I told them I was coming to France, and that there's a very active, very strong, very determined group in France. So he knows.
Yeah. The hand jumping up and down in the back from France, I think.
The thing doesn't work.
Hi, I'm writing a newspaper for a student. Louder. An article for a student newspaper.
Louder. She's writing an article for her student newspaper.
Yeah, sorry, you did your research. I was wondering.
It's going to go to echo.
I was wondering if I could get a quote from you on the importance of political engagement and voting for students living abroad, and specifically voting for.
Can she get a quote from you about students or the significance of students abroad in voting for Bernie?
And political
And political participation and engagement. She needs a quote.
Well, I'll say a few things. You can pick you can make the quote up. Most journalists do. There is absolutely no doubt that the support and engagement of young people, but maybe particularly students, or maybe not, but young people, is a characteristic and a determining characteristic of Bernard's campaigning. And I think that's a change. We have two Americas in many ways. We could slice it many ways, but certainly age is one of the ways of doing that. Young America is a Bernie America. Old America is not necessarily a Bernie America. So I think that, and of course Bernard is, as you would say, he's not the end of the line. American politics are going to be fraught for a long time. Hopefully they'll be fraught with lots of hope, but it could be otherwise. And I think that the way in which young people deal with both either victory for Bernard or defeat is going to determine the history of America over the next long period.
Drew?
No.
Louder.
No. It's not working.
Okay,
Come on up.
So my question is about Americans who live abroad, especially in Europe. A lot of things that seem really radical in the United States are really normal in Europe. Like, for instance, healthcare. So I'm curious, after living most of your adult life, I think all of your adult life almost, abroad in Europe, if you have any advice for Americans trying to communicate with our American brethren in the United States in a way that doesn't scare them into thinking that we're very dangerous communists. No, seriously, I have trouble because now living here, I see that a lot of our ideas are consensus, commonplace, center-left ideas in Europe, but they call Bernie the far left. So I'm curious if you have advice on communicating with Americans about this idea.
Well, not a lot of advice. I think Mark here working on the Medicare for All and getting testimonies from people. It's real life experience tends to be the thing that convinces you the most, and the fact that people get treated better and have a better chance of surviving and don't get bankrupt and all the rest of that is very important. The way Bernard has been dealing with this for a long time, and I think he's correct, even in America, these ideas are not radical. I mean, he often goes through the whole list of things. There have been polls about Medicare for all. Most Americans think it's a good idea. There have been polls about a living wage. Most polls think that's good. There have been polls about taxing very rich people. Most polls say that's great. The truth is there is a real double approach in the journalism and so on. On the one hand, they constantly, as you say, call Bernard extreme, far left, socialist, occasionally still communist. And at the same time, the policies that he actually runs on are mainstream, in the sense that most people think that they're good. That's as far as I can go towards an answer. Direct communication about what has really happened to you, the people you know, how they've lived here, the things that work here in various countries could help.
Hi, everybody. I'm lucky enough right now to be working on a video where I'm just getting testimonies from Americans. Basically, I've been working on the angle of freedom. I tried to find an angle that would resonate with Americans, and we love our freedom, right? So with this healthcare video that Penny has helped me put together with Claudia and a couple other people of the group, the angle that I go for is in every major aspect of our life, it increases our quality of life, because that's something that I think Bernie has done a great job of doing, is changing mentality on quality of life. So in every major aspect, if you're a small business owner, when we talk about Medicare for all, you don't have to have those costs anymore to pay for your employers. If you want to have a child, you don't have to go into debt because you're having you're pregnant. So I'm hoping to release the video in the next month. I'm editing right now. I was with Catherine Aubin today doing an interview with the physician. And it's really just public policy that works for you. So I think even just avoiding the term leftist or socialist, whatever, it's just public policy that actually works for you can sometimes be an effective way to talk to our fellow citizens. Anyway.
Just to add, Bernard has been very good at pointing out the Franklin Roosevelt's Economic Bill of Rights. I think in 1944, four rights included the right to health, free health care, right to a job, right, I think it was about farmers, right to a home. I think FDR is quite obviously mainstream, so those rights might also resonate.
Well, just back to the question that you were posed about Bernie's reactions about medical care when you were young.
Okay, Joe, wait a minute, because I want to say this because people can't hear you. So Joe wants to get back to the questions and what Larry was talking about in terms of medical care when you were young.
I just wanted to make a clarification, because when we were young, which many of the millennials don't know, doctors were not expensive.
Okay, I'm trying to repeat it if you give me 1 moment, please. Please repeat, Joe.
Okay, so when we were young, growing up in the United States.
When we were young, growing up in the United States.
You could go to the doctor without fear of going bankrupt or you were able to pay for it.
You could go to the doctor without fear of being bankrupt and not worrying about having to pay for it.
Even if you were not wealthy.
Even if you were not wealthy.
And the same is true for the universities and the colleges.
And the same is true for going to universities and colleges back then.
So that's not something that has been in place forever. It goes back 30 or 40 years.
So it's not something that's not been in place forever, but it goes back 30 or 40 years. So
I just want to mention charter schools.
Wants to also mention charter schools.
As Bernie, I have a friend who supports charter schools. I looked it up. Goldman Sachs gave them money.
She has a friend who supports charter schools, and Goldman Sachs gave them money.
They bought the building, and then the public funds pay back the mortgage.
They bought the building, and then public funds paid back the mortgage.
And they closed the public schools.
And they closed the public schools.
Perhaps,
So what's your question?
well, I could probably look it up, but I wonder if Bernie has made any opinions about charter schools.
Has Bernie made any opinions about charter schools?
Yes, he has been critical of charter schools, particularly the for-profit ones are even the worst. But I can't remember the detail, but he certainly said that it's not a good idea. What you need is a well-funded, well-run public school system. But about the first part of it, you're completely correct. We did not have major problems with financing care for my mother, for instance. My father's employment covered the hospital costs. Out-of-hospital costs were quite low. She actually spent time in a philanthropic hospital. So I was just saying that basically, what Joe is right. In the 60s and 50s, 60s, I'm not sure how far it went. It was not, healthcare was not such a disaster in America. But what it did happen is that year by year, the profits went up. And when you raise your profits every year, eventually it begins to destroy the system. And universities were the same. I went to Brooklyn College for 4 years, didn't pay